Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to another episode of Walk-Ins Welcome with Nick and Michael. As always, it's our goal to help you get more patients, deliver better care, get repeat visits, and scale your clinic. Part of that scale is adding different opportunities to create income. And we have a great guest today, Michael. Who's our guest? Who's going to be talking all about occupational med?
Yeah. It's summertime, so we recognize that this may be a slower time of the year for people for urgent cares. We also recognize this may be the project time of the year, so we're actually going to introduce a service option to you guys today that could be something good for you. Also, thanks for listening to our rewind. We've been slipping in some rewinds. We've been doing it for a while. So now we're over 170 episodes, so we have some good content we can bring back up. So we just did EOS just recently. Already got some good feedback from it, so we appreciate you guys listening to some of our rewinds. But today we have Ira Pasternack. He is with WebForDoctors. He's the founder of WebForDoctors. He's actually been in the urgent care space for 26 years.
You probably know him.
You probably know him. You probably have heard his name.
You've definitely seen him at UCA.
But he's been around since 1999 in the urgent care space, which to me is kind of when urgent care was just being brought up, right? So like he's been there since the ground. It's so fantastic. But Ira, so glad to have you on.
Ira, man, welcome to the podcast. We're glad to finally have you on. Tell us one thing about you that nobody else knows and say hello to the Walk-Ins Welcome audience.
Well, thanks, guys. It's great to be here. And one thing about me that nobody knows, I guess maybe on some level, this may be on my LinkedIn profile, but it's not something I necessarily talk about the details. But I had a early midlife crisis where I was kind of a carny for a while, and I managed a business where we traveled all around the Northeast U.S. selling food at art fairs and music festivals and kind of a variety of events. And so it was kind of I was already doing this, and during that part of the year I was working a lot of hours, and then in the winter I was just kind of working normal hours. But I spent a couple summers essentially as a carny and decided that I like this job a little bit better.
Well,
you're
expanding our list of things that have been said on this podcast, but I have to show some respect here. Have you heard of, I think it's at a carnival up north. It's like Martha's Cookie Bucket or something like that. Anyway, they put it's like a bucket of hot cookies and milk, and it's only served at carnivals. And you brought that up, so it immediately made my mouth water because I like things.
Wait. So what's your favorite carny food?
It's a tough one. Wait on him to say, don't eat the food.
From back in those days, I'm going to say we had some friends that had a sweet potato fry booth, and those sweet potato fries were the best.
I can
maybe not a normal carny food, but it was at a bunch of the events we went to.
Oh man, like there is no food like carnival food. I got to be honest. Like whether it's good or bad, it's good.
Fried Oreos, all day long.
Fried cheese.
Fried
in Memphis, they do fried butter.
Fried, right?
Yeah, it's always fried. There's no other way to do it. Oh man, well look, I want to talk Occ Med. So let me kind of set the table a little bit. First of all, Ira and I have become friends over the past couple of years. I think at first glance, you would probably look at us as competitors, but the more conversations we've met, we've befriended each other. So we wanted to have a conversation around what you specialize in most, which is recent to you, I think maybe within the past couple of years, is this occupational medicine and how it can benefit urgent cares. So let's start with that. You've helped urgent care clinics grow for about 2 decades now. So what are the mistakes that you're seeing clinics make when it comes to building and managing their Occ Med programs? And you had a name for it, like before we came on here, you were calling it something.
Yeah. Well, essentially what you really need to do is find your version of occupational medicine.
Yes.
And it really does go back to that very first urgent care website that I built in 1999. And that practice at the time had one location. They added a second one a few years later, but that first location was in an industrial area. They were over 50% Occ Med, and it was a big part of what they did. Now, at that point, literally today, LinkedIn is a big part of what we use. At that point, LinkedIn didn't even exist yet. So things have come a long way. But at the same time, that same practice, the second location they bought was in a more suburban area. They only did 10 or 20% Occ Med. So within that first experience I had, I saw that even within one brand, you could have different versions of Occ Med. And really what you need to do is find the right mix for each each local market where you have locations.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm curious on the Occ Med side, because when we talk about Occ Med, we go in the phrase of you go after additional services like Occ Med because your urgent care is doing what's supposed to be doing, and you're just looking for ways to kind of sweeten the pot and so forth. With the clients you've worked with, urgent cares over the years on Occ Med side, over time, what percentage do you think on average represents their revenue because of Occ Med? So like, from our world, we're probably saying like 80% plus is urgent care focus, and then the little ancillary services fill in. But for Occ Med, is it 10 or 20% of their total portfolio, or where's the averages kind of lie for most urgent, or what's the expectation, I guess?
Yeah, for most urgent cares, I mean, again, it depends on if you're in a suburb without a lot of manufacturing or construction or industry around you, it's going to be lower. If you're in a more urban area or just in a growing area with a lot of construction, you could potentially expect more. Of course, it also depends on the competition you have. And that's, again, why there's so many variables with Occ Med that it's hard to say, but 15% or so ballpark, kind of what sort of some for practices that offer it, know what they're doing, don't necessarily go to extensively promote it, but just by being local within a few years, you can kind of get up to about 15%. If you promote it, it could be well over 50%. I mean, we have a urgent care that we've done some work with in Los Angeles. They're one location. They brand themselves as an urgent care, but they are about 80 to 85% occupational medicine. Although in their case, that includes physical therapy. And so the rehab part of occupational medicine, which is kind of another area that we've been, the more we get into Occ Med, the more we see that overlap.
So we're going into, I'm going to call it the summer slump in the urgent care space. It's one of the reasons I strategically kind of wanted to have you on in this time frame. What is the difference between an urgent care patient flow and an Occ Med patient flow, and how does that affect the summer slumps?
Yeah, I kind of call it the summer slowdown, but the summer slump works just as well, if not better. The thing with Occ Med is, again, it depends on your market, but in a lot of times it's maybe not the summer slump where there's a direct correlation to a balancing, but in that kind of spring slowdown that you also get when it kind of starts to slow down in the spring. That's when in a lot of markets you've got the construction trades are hiring for their summer busy season. And so you've got a lot of pre-employment physicals that can kind of come up in the late winter throughout the spring, depending on the market you're in. And then again, just because in the summer you maybe do have more construction, more people working outdoors, there are, you can kind of, by targeting the right kind of injury care, you can certainly increase your volume in a way that people might not automatically think of urgent care as the solution. And some of that depends on with workers' compensation and employment and injuries on the workplace. Every state is different, and dependent in some states, you've got employer choice where the employer tells you exactly where you have to go. Other states are the opposite, employee choice, where the employee can go anywhere you want. So at that point, employee choice states, your urgent care marketing and advertising should be including a focus on those workplace injuries.
Okay, so I really want to talk about...
That's fascinating, actually, because that kind of changes the dynamic of how people should approach it.
Right.
They really need to go check their state regulations first before they even start the path, honestly.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
There's a middle ground where there's a panel option where they can't tell you to go to one, but they can give you, depending on the state, 3 or 4 or within a certain network that you have to go to. And then the other variable that's important, besides who has the choice of directing the care, is the reimbursement rates. Texas has the best reimbursement rates in the country. New Jersey similarly has some of the best reimbursement rates, and Wisconsin, just to kind of pick 3 states. But then they're like Michigan is an employer choice state, but the reimbursement rates are fairly low. So depending on the type of injuries around your urgent care, it can make a big difference about whether you want to focus on the injury care of Occ Med, or if you focus on Occ Med, there's also the employer paid services, which are your pre-employment physicals, DOT physicals, drug screening. Those are generally things paid by the employer. That's cash pay. That can really be, whether it's a seasonal balance or not, it's a nice balance to not be dependent on insurance companies for all of your income. So the cash pay nature of the employer paid Occ Med is another big benefit.
I like that. So obviously there is a gap between how you would market an urgent care patient and how you would market for an Occ Med. And I don't think our audience needs any convincing that Occ Med needs to be a part of their lineup, a part of their offering. What I think the reason maybe they don't lean into that a little bit, maybe they're not as quick to pull the trigger on Occ Med, is maybe they don't understand how to market it. So we're both marketers. Let's go down the marketing path a little bit. And I'm not expecting you to give away all your secrets on here, but let's talk about your approach. And here's what I found in marketing before we get started. Even if you give all your secrets away, nobody wants to go do it anyway.
No.
So,
Yeah. And the one person
is he described.
Yeah.
And the one person that does do it, they come back, say, "Hey, that worked real great. Can you go ahead and take it over?"
Go ahead and take it over for me. That's been our experience. So I want you to be as comfortable to say as much or as little as you want, but something tells me that most people don't want to do it themselves. They just want to do what they do. So let's go down that road. Let's talk Occ Med. How do you currently market that for an urgent care?
Sure. So again, in a limited number of states where it's employee choice, and this is something that as long as I've been doing this, I'm just understanding some of the nuances, but I'm realizing in those employee choice, it does have to overlap with your urgent care advertising and get some of that messaging in those states into the injury care ads that you're running. But beyond that, there's very little digital marketing overlap. There is some digital marketing, but it's on different platforms.
Right.
On Google Ads, you can get some limited results, and depending on your market, DOT physicals, there are people searching for individual DOT physicals. But in general, it's a B2B process where it's a direct sales. You've got to identify the prospects in your area and identify the safety managers, HR managers, operations managers, depending on the industry. The title will often be different, but it's a B2B sales process. Ultimately, is what you need to do to be really successful in Occ Med.
And look, in all honesty, B2B marketing radically different than business to consumer. It's not even close.
And just a slower burn.
Right.
Like the decision making on a B2B, it can take days, weeks, months, years.
That's right.
It really just depends. Yeah. Like it's like constant, because we've had other vendors on where they had like, we're building this CRM for urgent care. Like, oh yeah, because if it's Occ Med related, it's not a one touch and I'm in. It's like touch after touch, and you can go into all that, but we just recognize because we're B2B, right? Because we're trying to reach out to urgent cares. You're trying to reach out to urgent cares, and like no urgent care says yes on the first tap. They want to be tapped a bunch of times and eventually go from there. Well, it's no different when urgent care is reaching out to a business where that business is busy, and so it's not just an instant win. It's it may happen here and there, but it's a reality. Like it just takes time. Like we just signed up an urgent care that's been chatting with us for over a year.
Right.
You finally say, I can go. Great. I don't know why it took so long, but great.
Glad to have you nonetheless.
Yeah.
So when you are marketing, you said there's a couple of platforms or at least a platform. I don't know which one, probably LinkedIn if I were going to wager a bet, where you're seeing the best opportunities to turn a conversation into an Occ Med client for a clinic. Let's talk through that for just a second.
Sure. So, I mean, really the pillars of our content pillars, I mean, your website is going to be the same. Your website is your website. So we build content for your website to kind of build a foundation of the type of Occ Med services you deliver and so forth. From there, it's a combination of LinkedIn and a lot of email marketing as well as telemarketing, and the mix of telephone outreach, email outreach, and LinkedIn is going to vary depending on the team you have and the market you're in and your preferences, but some combination of those is really what you're looking at, which is, I think, pretty true to most B2B. With YouTube, if you're good at it, YouTube would be the next one in line.
Okay, so that of course that leans heavily into content creation.
Yeah.
Which gives most of our urgent cares the big bad scaries.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Ira, but when we ask for content from an urgent care, it just goes on deaf ears.
Yeah. I mean, it's with any healthcare providers I've worked with, it seems more, and I mean, there's certain reasons why, because of HIPAA or other reasons why you have to be careful with what pictures you take, although that you can work around that pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, from basic pictures to, you have to really make it easy for them because they are busy, and marketing probably isn't the thing that they're looking to think about all the time. So,
right. So you'd mentioned telemarketing, which is phone calls. Are you texting as well, or is it just phone calls related?
We treat texting more as typically follow-ups once you've started to build that relationship. If the prospects, or once they're a client, they show that that's a channel that they respond to, then yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily, until we've sort of gotten them engaged, we don't tend to do a lot of texting. A lot of that, honestly, I've done some projects in other industries where we've been able to do more, but the lists that we inherit from, whether it's a practice that's been around a couple years or a couple decades, they rarely have people's cell phone numbers, and texting has just never been a part of their workflow. So the percentage of contacts with the ability to do text tends to be pretty low, but it is something that, depending on the sales rep we work with or the account manager we're working with at a particular client, if they are a texter, then they will kind of tend to encourage it with their clients. But again, it's more at the nurturing, and once someone's signed on, and in Occ Med, once they're signed on, that doesn't mean they're sending you all their work. That's the other thing, is that it's you win them, you open an account, they're going to give you a few test cases in many cases, depending on the kind of work it is. And if you do a good job, you communicate well, the employees are happy with the care, then you could become their primary vendor. So the sale doesn't stop when the account gets opened, is another piece of the Occ Med world.
I mean, that's something we got to remind people of. Just because they said yes and they signed a piece of paper or whatever, they're still testing you, because their decision's on the line, and they could be upsetting lots of people if it was a bad decision. Because I think, honestly, in this scenario, you have really two customers. You have the customer who signed the paper, it's going to pay you, but then you have the real customer who's coming in, which is the employee. To get, and that experience matters too.
That's the consumer.
So that's the actual consumer.
There's a third one, which is the insurance broker. Insurance company is part.
Nobody cares about them, though, man. Come on, like, if you've listened to our podcast at all, you know that insurance is the last thing on anybody's mind. Right?
But in the workers' comp world, in some states, the insurance broker is the point person for a lot of this, so you can't avoid it in workers' comp. It's a different equation there. So
I was just joking, man. Like, that's insurance is a dirty word around the podcast room.
Yeah, I mean, in this whole industry, it's a dirty word.
United, and it's over with.
Yeah, exactly. So you had
not quite as dirty as lawyer, but close.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's getting there.
Or regulations.
It's getting there.
So you had telephone with some texting, LinkedIn, and email. Mm-hmm. So we're big believers in LinkedIn email, especially email is one of those things that's been around forever. It's still super effective. It's very cost effective. I think, and you probably agree with this, it's really more about the list that you're using on your email more than anything else, because whether you like it or not, you have to have healthy, regularly filtered lists that are big enough. Like 100 email addresses is not going to cut it. Right. And I think a lot of people miss that. But tell me more about the email side.
That actually.
If
with Occ Med, especially, if you can find the right hyper local, super focused market, you can get better results with a list of 30 than you can with a more general, casting a wider net to a generic audience with a list of 300. And 300 around one given urgent care, you might not have more than 300 good prospects with 50 or more employers that are going to be kind of your focus on an outreach program. But we had one client where they had a couple furniture manufacturing clients and discovered that that was kind of a regional focus. So we developed a list of about 30 or 35 furniture manufacturers, got more leads from that in a tight period of time than we had gotten from a much bigger general list that was working, but just not working as quickly. So it's about finding that right hyper focus, matching the right list to the right landing page. And then if you're really good at something, you can double down on it and build on it in a situation like that.
You know, Ira, it's interesting. We in the urgent care side of things, we talk about people aren't going to travel more than maybe a 3 mile, 5 mile radius. If you're in a rural area, maybe 5 to 7, maybe even 10 miles max radius.
Sure.
What does that open up to Occ Med when you're starting to market that way? How far will an employer send their employees?
It's going to be fairly similar, maybe a little bit more around a general location. But what starts to happen if you have a bunch of locations in a metropolitan area, or a lot of times there'll be a hospital system that will have a hospital department and own some urgent cares. So you start to have a footprint for your brand in an area, then then people will just go with you, even if half their people are driving even more, because there's a lot of locations and a lot of options. So it's in general about the same as urgent care, but depending on the market, it can expand a little bit for bigger brands, either if
I was going to ask
employer or the provider is bigger.
Are employers more attracted to multi-location urgent cares than they are independent or single location?
If the employer's employer base is right, if all the employees work right in that one neighborhood where the location is, it's not going to matter as much. But if you've got bigger companies with multiple locations, more and more they're going to want to do all their business with one brand when they can.
So Michael, what he's saying is right down there at the Mercedes plant by Vincent, we just need to open up an urgent care right there by it, and we'd have a built-in 100,000 person workforce.
Just call it Daimler Dash urgent care.
There you go.
So they in a situation like that, they very likely have an on-site clinic if they've got that many employees. But what you're describing there, and this is more in the Occ Med world, but there's on-site clinics that are dedicated to one company, but then you've got near-site clinics and there's urgent care brands that open dedicated like Occ Med clinics that are in an industrial park that would be an awful location for urgent care, but because they've already built up the Occ Med client base, now they open a dedicated Occ Med location right in the middle of all the industry in their area.
Yeah, I mean, if you have because I think what we've already talked about, you have to have established business already before you go into the Occ Med world, because it takes so much time. And like in that scenario, where to have a near site, I mean, chances are that means that brand already has other urgent care somewhere else. This is really just like icing on the cake type of thing, and just grow from there. So on your services, tell us a little bit more about how far do you take the service, and then at what point are you handing it off to the client? Say, all right, now it's up to you to do X, Y, Z. Because like in our world, we get a potential patient to make a phone call or book online, and then we're out. Like that's as far as we can take it. What about you? Where does your service start and stop with a client?
So first of all, it depends on the client. We recognize that because we like to work with small businesses, they're going to have their internal capacities. So we find the gaps and fill them in their sales and marketing process. And with Occ Med specifically, we can we can have a very low touch arrangement where we're just providing the Occ Med content, and for someone that has an in-house team or a different agency and just needs specifically the Occ Med content more as a do-it-yourself level, but then we can manage that content for them and or provide strategic coaching anywhere from an hour a month to a day or two per week. Excuse me. And then on the sales side of things, we can take it a little bit farther because, well, certain things have to be done locally, and at some point we hand off to a local sales rep or account manager or office manager who does the local stuff. A lot of the Occ Med business, the decision maker might not even be local to them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be done virtually through telemarketing and email marketing. So we have clients where we literally close deals for them and hand them off when they're ready to start sending in patients, or set up the final kind of closing appointment, in-person appointment. But we have other situations where they have a sales rep, a sales department, and we just support that with the marketing resources.
Gosh, I kind of like the done for you part.
I was going to say, it sounds like a do it yourself, a done with you, and a done for you aspect.
Pretty
I mean,
much, yeah.
I would
you
vote
summarized
done
it
for
better
you.
than I did. So yes, I will agree there.
Yeah, I mean, I would vote done for you all day long, just because, well, obviously it's going to cost more up front, but it's a whole lot less you got to do internally. And then you don't have to have a staff. Because I think that's the part I think a lot of people, a lot of urgent cares miss, is that if they plan to go down the Occ Med route and they only want like your services just to kind of get the leads flowing, they have to have somebody internally that's following up every single day and nurturing those relationships, because they just take time. They just really do. Like, you know, on our sales side, things like it's very rare it happens overnight. And sometimes it's just timing is just bad, but they want to do it. Like they may be in some type of contract, or maybe they're migrating employees to certain areas of the business, whatever. So I think that's that reminder. If you're like, I want to go down Occ Med, but I just need some services to get the leads going, well, that means you have to have somebody on. It can't be the doctor. It can't be just the main doctor. He doesn't have time, or she doesn't have time. And then the owner is about halfway in, halfway out. And so you really need like that dedicated role. And I think people miss that. But it does sound like you have like, well, if you don't want to deal with all of that, I can just get you all the way to a signed piece of paper. And then let's just hope you figure out the rest on the doctor side.
Well, and honestly, for that, we have a strong partnership with NAOHP, the National Association of Occupational Health Professionals, and they provide things like provider training and support, and kind of bridge that gap from the clinical to the operational. So if within the Occ Med world, on the sales and marketing side, we're generally your guys, or guys and girls, as the case may be. But if you for our clients that need help beyond that, we've got a pretty broad network between NAOHP and other associates of helping to fill in all of the gaps in not just selling, but delivering those Occ Health services.
Nice.
That's good. So what's cool is you guys are going to be offering up a free consultation on a bundled membership. But what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through what a clinic could expect when we have Occ Med in place. Well, I tell you what, Britt, just do a full breakdown to me. You have it, you don't have it, you're doing it wrong, whatever. When they do a free consultation with you, what can they expect from start to finish?
Sure. So we're gonna find out kind of where they're at now and where they want to go is in general the flow of what we're gonna find out. So where they're at now includes how are they selling it? Is it just their local companies in their neighborhood that are finding them and it's just organically growing, or do they have some kind of an outreach process, and based on that, where are their gaps? Then on the service delivery side, now if they have a sales process and they're really more mature, then they're probably pretty good at delivering the services. But to the degree that they say they're offering Occ Med, we like to figure out what are they really doing. Is it primarily just injury care and some DOT physicals, or are they really doing the advanced OSHA medical surveillance exams? Where are they on the spectrum of how much Occ Med are they doing, and work with them to, again, find their version of Occ Med that where there's opportunities from the employment based in their area, and that their skill set and advantages are going to be something we can work with compared to their competition.
Okay.
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people have established that they need occupational medicine. They know that they need to offer that in their clinic. Getting a free consultation with you will identify where they are in the process.
It might also tell them, maybe I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Absolutely. And then as part of that, you have bundled memberships. Tell me a little bit about what your memberships are.
Sure. So we have with our occupational Occ Med growth system, we have a do-it-yourself version where each month we provide blogs, social media content, email content. For those content creators, we give you some frameworks for a few short talking head videos, and then some talking points that fit in with all of that content for your sales team or front desk staff, whoever's having those conversations. And so that's really kind of the first step that we provide, and then kind of using that content, build on that to again fill in whatever gaps and help the client connect with the people in their market that they need to connect with.
Love it. All right, so we're going to put together a landing page for our listeners to be able to go to. We're going to drop it in the show notes so that they can connect with you directly, Ira, and schedule out a time to do this consultation to learn more about your memberships. If it's, I've known you now for a few years, very low pressure, very high information. At the very least, in my opinion, you're going to leave with a ton of value. So we'll drop that link in the show notes to get you connected with Ira. But Ira, for that clinic that's on the fence, not about meeting with you, but about adding Occ Med to their repertoire, if you will, give them some parting words, and then we'll go out.
Sure. I should mention, you kind of met the bundle and the memberships. We do have an offer right now that bundles our Occ Med growth playbook through the end of the year, along with an NAOHP membership, which even if all you do is take advantage of the member resources, there's hundreds of hours of archived town halls and other video and content on their website to help you on your Occ Med journey. So
nice.
that bundled package that we kind of started offering at the recent Urgent Care Association conference will be available through June. And so you can get our kind of combined services for about half the price that it would normally cost to kind of explore Occ Med for the rest of the year and see how it fits on your practice.
That sounds like huge value to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Well, Ira, I've enjoyed having a conversation with you today. We've loved having you on the podcast. I always love talking to you
guys.
Yeah, man. I think there's going to be opportunities in the future. I think there's going to be stories that come out of this that you'll be able to tell us. We'll have to bring you back onto the podcast so you can let us know how it's impacting some of the urgent cares.
Absolutely.
Michael, anything from you, man?
Man, it's so funny because I think back to the first time we met you, like, he's a competitor. You know, we're all like, I don't know who this guy is. And now, you know, we're like I said, we're friends. We just hang out, but we've also like chosen our paths a little bit, right? Like, you're more on the Occ Med side, we're more on the traditional urgent care side, and so. But I do laugh every time we go to a UCA event. It's usually just the two of us that are the marketing people in that entire show. Like, we're it. It's just funny to me. But I've enjoyed all this. And you're like the old school website guy. So like, if there's ever a technical question, I bet I could just reach out to you in a split second and figure it out. So I do appreciate that too.
Sure. We do build we focus our marketing primarily on urgent care and especially Occ Med. We do build websites for anyone. So that's our
absolutely
another piece of our business, but it is kind of our history and foundation.
I've had the fortunate side to look at all the ventures that you've been able to build up, and he is an expert in the industry.
He is for sure.
Ira, thanks for being a guest with us, man.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode.
See ya.
All right. See ya.